Perform a strategic rollout with your 401k. In this episode, I'm going to answer the question, what should I do with my 401k when I retire? Now, the most common answer is, we'll roll it over to an IRA. That is stupid advice, in my opinion. I'm going to tell you why. When most people ask that question of an accountant, a CPA, what should I do with my 401k when I retire? Most of them are looking at a given single year. Oh, well, if you want to avoid paying tax, if you don't need the money yet, roll it over to an IRA. See, 401ks are generally sponsored through employers. And so when you retire, people say, well, what should I do with this 401k? And most people say, oh, well, roll it over to an IRA and continue to defer until you need the money. And if you don't need the money, wait until you're 72, and then you have to start pulling out at least required minimum distributions. Those are called RMDs, and that's the worst advice I've ever heard. I have software that shows people if they postpone, roll over, that's like going from the frying pan into the fire. You're continuing to defer, procrastinate paying tax to some future perceived unknown advantage when most Americans, when I ask them the question, how many of you, in an audience of 20,000 people, how many of you think that in general, taxes in America will be lower? I get nothing but crickets. How many think they're going to be the same? Maybe one or two hands go up. How many think they're going to be higher? And a sea of hands goes up. And I go, why do you want to continue to defer and compound the problem? They never think of it that way. My software shows that if you do that, how much you will pay in tax as you keep Uncle Sam as your partner, where he will get a third of everything you will ever earn. So why would they want you to kill that partnership? People say, well, why do they tell you to do stretch IRAs and roll it over and take out RMDs on CNBC? And I go, who's funding CNBC? Tax revenuers. Why would they ever want to kill a deal where they get a third of everything you will ever earn if they keep being a partnership? But they can change the percentage. If they get more hard up, they can change the percentage from 25 to 33 to 40 to 50 to 60%, which is what they do. Why would you want to go in business with a partner like that? And so I've told people for years, let me show you what would happen if you got your money out. The tax is over and done with sooner than later, and then reposition the net after-tax money into something that's going to be tax-free from now on. And they say, well, what's that? My favorite tax-free vehicle is called the Laser Fund, and it allows you to accumulate, access, and transfer your money tax-free. It knocks the socks off of a Roth, because people say, well, what about a Roth? Well, Roths have too many strings attached. You can only put in a certain dollar amount or a certain percent of your income. Savvy CPAs and tax attorneys call my Laser Fund the rich man's Roth. And I go, well, you don't have to be rich to have one, but see, the rich can't own a Roth. But see, my Laser Fund has 6 benefits. A Roth only has 2. And the Laser Fund has those 2 benefits, always have, but 4 additional benefits for a total of 6. So why would I ever put money in a Roth that restricts me when I can have the 2 benefits of a Roth and 4 additional benefits? So let me share with you a couple of quick stories of people that I helped to be able to not string it out, but to actually get the money rolled out and the taxes over and done with, and how much better off they were. By the way, if what you're hearing already is intriguing interest, type in a question, search other YouTube videos on this topic. At the end of this episode, I'll show you how you can learn more about what I'm talking about by getting a free copy of my most recent best-selling book. Subscribe to the channel, because I'm very passionate about empowering you to be able to not outlive your money. And it's not by following the herd, putting money in traditional IRAs and 401ks. In fact, Time Magazine years ago, when people lost 40% for the second time in a decade, the decade from 2000 to 2010, Time Magazine's cover story is why we should retire the 401k and do something better instead. Same thing with IRAs. Later on, we had a lot of articles that talk about the IRA 401k scam. A couple of years ago, Wall Street Journal talked about the original champions of the 401k lament the day they ever came up with that idea. It's because people aren't in lower brackets when they retire if they save very much. Most of the people who have money in IRAs or 401ks, it's invested in the market, and they're only averaging really 3.5%, which is pretty pathetic. That's why most firms only allow you to pull out 4% a year. On $1 million nest egg, that's only 40 grand. So let me give you a couple of stories to help you understand what a strategic rollout is. I helped a couple of school teachers one time over a 5-year period roll out $250,000. By the time we got it out, it had grown another $50,000. So we actually got out $300,000. Now, we were going to have to pay tax of about $60,000 as we got it out through tax planning and refinancing their properties. I actually washed away that $60,000 of tax. We got $300,000 out of their IRAs or 401ks in 5 years out totally tax-free. And that's $300,000 repositioned into the laser fund in the time period that they were going to be tempted to leave it in their IRAs or 401ks. It doubled to $600,000. $600,000 is generating $50,000 to $60,000 a year of tax-free income now. That knocks the socks off of what their IRAs and 401ks were going to yield for them. I have another gentleman. We were able to take out, his name was Bill, and we took out $750,000 out of his IRAs and 401ks over a 5-year period with a strategic rollout. He started out with $600,000, but we were able to earn another $150,000 of interest while we got it out. We also offset the tax on his $750,000 by combining together tax strategies. But even if we had just pulled out $750,000 over 5 years and paid taxes of a third, $250,000, the net would be $500,000. In the laser fund, he's been earning 8 to 10%. What's 8% on $500,000? $40,000. Do you know what his IRAs and 401ks were generating? $24,000 at the 4% rule in the financial services industry, and that was before tax. $24,000 minus 33% in tax in his bracket only netted him $16,000. We took him from $16,000 of money a year to buy gas and groceries, prescriptions, golf green fees, and so forth, up to $40,000 to $50,000. But in actuality, I combined strategies together and we ended up with $750,000 out totally tax-free. I have another couple, they're both physicians. When they came to me, they had about $4.5 million in their IRAs or 401ks. They were going to owe about $2.6 million in tax if they deferred until they were 70 and a half at that time. And then they started taking out RMDs. They were going to shell out between 2.3 to 2.6 million in taxes. Now, do you know what their accountant said? They can afford 2.6 million in tax. I go, well, let's ask them. I said, if you could redirect that, would you like to save some of that? Well, of course. I wasn't able to save them all 2.6 million, but I saved them 1.2 million. You know what they did with that 1.2 million of otherwise payable tax? They set up what I call a family bank, and that is providing a perpetual education fund for their kids, their grandkids, and great-grandkids into perpetuity, for college funding, for humanitarian service, for religious missions. That's money that would otherwise have gone down the drain in unnecessary tax. We do this all the time. These are called strategic rollouts. So the answer to the question is, what should you do with your 401k? Don't roll it over to an IRA. Why do you want to continue to procrastinate? When has procrastination ever come out good for you? It never has for me. Get the taxes over and done with sooner than later. Reposition the after-tax money into something that's going to be tax-free from now on. And icing on the cake, hey, if we can offset some of the tax during the rollout, we can do it. But the laser fund at the end of the day will reimburse you for all the taxes you paid when you ultimately pass away. So if you want to understand how to accumulate, access, and transfer your money tax-free, use the laser fund. This most recent book, it's book number 11, has been flying out of our warehouse shelves. How to diversify and create the foundation for a tax-free retirement. It's 300 pages, all kinds of charts, graphs, and explanations, and 62 actual stories on this side of the book here. Okay, and so if you go to Laser Fund, laserfund.com, you can claim your free copy. You simply contribute $5.95 toward the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that and I'll pay for the book. There's also options in that website if you want to listen and learn and watch and learn. But I would recommend you watch this episode next and type in any questions below. And subscribe and hit the little notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post an answer to a financial question, which I do on a daily basis.